Hey folks, welcome to this week's edition of BrushPile Fishing. We're at one of my favorite lakes here in Ohio, Indian Lake. It's only about 30 miles from my home lake. Love fishing here. It's only about a 5,100 acre lake, but it is dynamite for saugeye fishing, for bass fishing, and of course crappie fishing. We're going to concentrate on shallow water here. We're in the first day of May. We wanted to get started this morning, but it's rained all day. Hopefully the water hasn't muddied. And speaking of the water, here's one key for today. So I've won several tournaments on Indian Lake, but the spots that I love to fish have been invaded by the zebra mussels. It has cleared the water up to you can see 5 foot down on the bottom. And with that clear water, the weeds have come up to where you basically can't fish those areas. So what we're going to look for today is some murkier water, and hopefully we'll find some shallow fish in either the pads, aluminum lifts, or docks. So stay tuned. We'll be right back here at Indian Lake and BrushPile Fishing.
Many people look at a lake and feel a sense of calm serenity. Crappie fishermen feel the heart-pounding anticipation of the thump. That's why host Russ Bailey is addicted to crappie fishing. It's this addiction that takes Russ from the Midwest to the Deep South in search of the best lakes, techniques, and patterns from some of the best crappie anglers in the country. Right here on BrushPile Fishing. Here's the lake information, sponsored by Mossback Fish Habitat. Your gear and conditions, sponsored by Cornfield Fishing Gear.
Oh, there we go. There's a decent one. There we go. Not a hog, but that's a good cleaner. White crappie, and we should catch all whites in these pads. And I'm hoping that this evening bite turns on. But that's a good cleaner, about a 11-inch fish right there. Pretty fish. All right, so we're starting to pick up a few right when the sun's starting to go down, or daylight's going down. We haven't had no sun today, but we were here just a couple mornings ago, and the morning bite was good. We caught nothing but big whites. Now this afternoon, we couldn't get out this morning because of the rain. So we're trying to do an afternoon show. The bite's not been as good, but we had a lot of rain today. And I've switched up my areas. I told you the other day when we were fishing in the morning, it was all white crappie. Caught a couple whites and one black crappie here tonight. So we'll see what we end up with. But I'm hoping now that it's getting into the evening hours that the bite turns on. Did you see that? There we go. Crappie. Not a huge one, but again, another good cleaner if he's cleaning. That's a black crappie. Caught a couple whites, and that's a black. Boy, he had that down there now. Switched colors. About a 10-inch black crappie. Indian's great for pad fishing. A lot of shallow water options over here. Like I say, they've got docks, they've got aluminum lifts, they've got rocky shorelines. And when those fish are in the riprap around here, man, that's a blast too. But tonight we're gonna try to concentrate on these pads because like I say, we've been getting some really nice ones in there. But we will see what happens here this evening. And there's pads everywhere. Now, like I talked about in the opening, the one thing that you've got to look out for this year is a lot of the areas on Indian, the water is so clear now that it's infested with weeds and you can't really even fish it. And you can see 5, 6 foot down in the bottom from zebra mussels. So, you know, if you're used to fishing a certain area and you get into those and you see it's that clear, you're going to have to hunt for other water that you normally don't fish. But I'll tell you what, you can still have some great fishing over here, that's for sure. This is a simple little method we're doing, and sometimes you'll have open spaces between the pads, and sometimes the fish are in those open spaces. And other time, depending on the sunlight or the barometer or whatever, they may be holding super, super tight to the pads to where you have to put it right on their head. So we're experimenting here tonight. I'm going to raise the anchors up here and go hit a few more pads. And I can see some moving way up there. So I'm going to get in these just a little bit. Holy cow, they're moving. Now we have seen some carp in here, so, and that could be carp too, but we're going to find out. And what I'm doing is use my 10.5 foot rod, making long flips, because we're in shallow water. We're only in 2 foot right now. And it's not clear, but it's not real dingy either, so just kind of stay back off the fish. And I'll hit an area, a couple flips or a couple drop downs, work it back. If I don't get any hits, I just move a little bit more and hit some different areas. Tonight they seem to be really, really scattered. You know, one crappie here, one crappie there. You just got to do a lot of moving in these pads. You definitely want a longer crappie rod for this, because if you try with a shorter rod to cast out, and then you're going to get hung up all day. And the shallower the water you're in, you really want to try to stay off the fish. There we go. There's oh my goodness, that is a big black crappie. That is oh, get out of that pad. Come here. Oh my gosh. That's what Indian Lake can produce. Oh man. And like I say, the evening bite has not been as good as the morning, but oh man, 1 or 2 of these will make your whole trip. Just pad dipping. And look, I want to show you, he engulfed that thing. He wasn't coming off of there. I've had to, you know, I like using my eye hole jigs, but I've had to really downsize. Got a 1/32 double cross from Crappie Magnet and that black and chartreuse. Look at that fish. Beautiful black crappie right there. My goodness. A couple of them will make your trip. That's probably a 15 to 16 inch crappie right there. That is awesome. All right, so we're back in the water now. Man, that last fish was a dandy. And like I say, guys, we are only fishing in about 2 foot of water. And I think the key has been in this set of pads, just long flips. And I was just talking about using longer rods. You won't get tangled and you can get that bait out, and not just flipping it, but you can just kind of drop it down to where it needs to be. Oh man, that last fish, that'll get your blood boiling, especially in shallow water, and you got all the pads and the pad stems, so you don't know if he's going to get off or if you're going to get him in. That's awesome. That's what it's about right there. And like I say, what I'm doing is just hitting an area, and then if I don't get a bite after a few little flips, I'm moving. And I always want to hit the outside edge of the pads first and then work my way to the inside. But so far tonight anyways, the outside, they're not there. They're up in close. Some of them are in the open areas between the pads, but they're still up in them. They're not on the outside edges. Oh man. And the good thing is when they do hit it, if you find one and they hit it, they absolutely are smashing these crappie magnets. My favorite color, we all have favorite colors, and on this lake, the Glow Pop has been by far my favorite. But tonight, I don't know if it's the conditions, they didn't want that. So I went with the pink head, then the black and chartreuse, and man, oh man, like I say, when they hit it, it's on. And I've missed some this evening that it hit it as hard as that last fish did. But you get a little slack in your line with the wind, and it's easy not to get a good hook set on them. So now I've hit a little bit of the outside edge. I see some openings in there, so I'm gonna move the boat up just a little bit. Again, I think that's what these crappie are doing. They're in these pads and they'll see that jig move by and they ambush it. It's like right now. As far as the action I'm putting on, when I drop that in, I just seen a pad move, which is something else I want to talk about. If you see stems moving and you know it's not from the wind, drop right beside it. Normally, if that fish is there, he will pound that thing if it gets close. But I'm just kind of popping it and then letting it set for a second. Like I say, when they're as active as they are tonight, when they're there, you'll know, because it's going to just, the cork's going to disappear. And what I'm going to do, because if I go to the other side, of course the wind's going to push me in, so I may just go back to where I started and make another circle. Because if you can get, you know, a couple good keepers every pass. This afternoon it's been cloudy, and then it kind of cleared up and then got cloudy again. See, we had a lot of rain today because the plan was to do a morning show, and that just wasn't going to happen. There's another good fish. There's a white crappie. We're fishing the same area. We're getting some whites, we're getting some blacks. Oh man, and he was close to a pad. That's a 12-inch crappie right there. So man, oh man, this is fun. Now, as far as limits here in Ohio, most inland lakes, you've got 30 and they've got to be 9 inches. Okay, and that's what it is here on Indian. And that's plenty. The other thing that you might keep in mind, I'm using a 4-pound test. Now, I do have high vis on because I love my high vis. But I've got a 4-pound test because the water's fairly clear. And you will lose some jigs. Oh, there he was. Took the jig halfway off. You will lose some jigs when fishing these pads because the jig will get caught in the pad stems, and sometimes you can break them off or break them free, but sometimes you can't. So make sure you got plenty of jig heads. And Crappie Magnet will appreciate that, and so will Eye-Hole. They'll always give you more. All right, now I see another little cut, just like a little highway between these things, or a little roadway. And that's what I like to hit, because a lot of times, like I say, they're just right up on them stems, and then they come out to get that bait. The other thing, I'll use a slab bite a lot of times in here, but tonight I haven't had to so far. They just, when they're there, they'll let you know. And this is cool because we've seen plenty of big carp in here, but there's still crappie here. I wish we could have got here this morning, folks, because the morning bite has been outstanding. But like I say, it was absolutely pouring. The other thing about Indian, they get a lot of pleasure boaters on the weekend. So if there's any way you can come over here during the weekday, that's when you want to do it, especially in the evening. Like right now, we've seen one other boat, and that's it. Gotta be a crappie right there, gotta be. Called it. I called it. That's not a big one, but still, I knew there had to be one in there. Won't let you grow up. Just a baby, and that's a white crappie. So like I say, we call white and black in here. Now, I made a flip up in this area, but I didn't get back as far as I wanted. So I'm gonna make another one. I want to drop it right down there and then work out of that area. Doggone. And that's why. All right, they are absolutely tearing this tail up. And folks, the cameraman just brought up a good point. We started picking these fish up when we got on the outer corner and then a little bit rougher water on these pads. There he goes, and he hit it again. Come here, another black. About a 10-inch black crappie. Getting a little bit of all the sizes. Another thing that I like about this lake in the shallow cover in the spring and fall, fishing's outstanding. And you know, we've done some live scope shows, which have been pretty cool, but we have a lot of people say, hey, I'm never gonna have the live scope, so do some more shows of what, you know, your average anglers are gonna be doing. This is it right here. And I'll tell you what, yes, I enjoy the live scoping, but watching a cork go down there is nothing like it. I think most of us started out fishing that way, and it never gets old. Watching that cork just disappear. Gotta be something right up there. Too many branches right around there. Oh, there we go. There were just so many different pad stems in that area. There had to be a fish. There's a white crappie. It's like black crappie, white crappie, black crappie, white crappie. Come here. I want some more of them big mamas though. Come here. And that black fish that we call it the big one, that was actually a male. Another, you know, 11 and a half, 12 inch. You know, we're in the beginning of the spawn, but I still say it's pre-spawn here. You haven't seen these fish really changing into that dark color yet. Water temps just hitting 60 tonight. And those fish will stay in the shallows. When it starts hitting 70s, they'll move out. And there's not a lot of deep water. This is like my home lake of St. Mary's, but there's some areas that are a little bit deeper around Dream Bridge. You'll see guys fish at all summer long for crappie, especially in the nighttime. There we go. Ah, a little white. Where's them big blacks at? That's what I'm wanting. That's a baby there. I'm sure Joe 218, the cameraman, don't even want that one in the boat. It's so small. And folks, I hate to say it, I'm gonna have to put another tail on because they are absolutely tearing this thing up. I just don't want to quit flipping. I think you see some of the areas that I've caught the fish in. You can almost predict them because there's so many pad stems together. And if you get in there and don't get hung, you got a good shot of getting a fish. And like Joe 218, the cameraman, said, seems like they're not preferring the calmer part of the water tonight. You can see there's a good ripple out here right now on what we're fishing. And I was going to go back where we started and work around, but I think we're just going to keep circling this whole area. A little bit harder to control the boat. We basically hit 2 different patches of pads tonight. First one we called a good keeper white crappie and a small one, but that was it. So we moved to this open water area, and that's been the key. They're not actually back in the bay tonight. They're in this open water. I see an area I'd like to hit right now between here. It's, again, like a little highway. I just want to throw out there. And again, getting as far away from the boat as I can, but still you want to be able to control that jig. You've got to see the size that you can get here. And you can get that black crappie, you call it, you can get several of those in a trip. We won last year's state law enforcement tournament here, and I had 2 crappie. One went 198 and 196, and we had several 1.5 pounds when we won that tournament. But again, for whatever reason on this lake, the morning bite seems a little bit better, especially for big fish. You know, one other point is, I told you I like a lighter jig head for this. I try not to make any noise when it hits the water, or at least kind of drop it slow. Real subtle, and then, like I say, when they're ambushing, man, look out. There's another long flip away from the boat. I love this lake. You know, we talked, it's also a great bass fishing lake, great for saugeye. Oh, there's another big one. Come here, look at there. That might be a white, that's a big white. Heck yeah. Now, I do want to bring up, look, I had to put another tail on. Excuse me, want to bring up another point. We talk a lot about patterns within a pattern. Our pattern is we're fishing this big patch of pads, but we've noticed they're on one area of the pads, so we're not wasting time anymore on the other parts. Another good fish, beautiful fish. This is where if you've never used the longer rods, you really need to, oh, I just missed one. Spend some time and get used to it, because I think this has been one of the keys this evening, is getting that bait way away from you in this shallow water. And you know, the one thing, set up a 5-gallon bucket at home and practice flipping that jig into it. Pinpoint where you want that jig to go. I've been with some guys and all they do is flip, and wherever it lands, that's where they're going to fish. But actually practice putting that exactly where you want it. That's what bass fishermen do a lot of times. And same thing with crappie fishermen. If you learn to do that, you can hit the areas where a lot of people may not fish or just miss those areas. And that's one of the reasons I designed this signature series rod, both the 8 and the 10.5. Now the 8's better for casting, but when I'm making long flips and I want to get right into an area, the 10.5, it just comes off here so easy. Yeah, that's got to be a bluegill on there. And that's why I use the 4-pound slime line too, because I want it coming off just as easy as it can. And in this little bit clearer water, I don't want to try to spook the fish, but I still like my high vis. And you can see the high vis hasn't done any damage to them tonight. There's a good spot. I may get hung on this. You know, if we find one area in these pads that I've got several areas I want to hit from wherever the boat's positioned, that's where I'll drop anchor or your power poles. But if you only have one area, you can hear those carp, then just keep the trolling motor going and motor on down. I see a lot of pads movement. I think some of those are carp now that I've seen some of those. Another thing we're doing is we're back to the area where we really started picking a few up. We made a big circle, and normally by the time you get back, those fish have settled back down and you can go back into them same areas and pop a few more. Now, not always, but we're going to see if that holds true tonight, because this is just getting into where we started picking these up. So we'll see if we can get a few more. Man, he just took that and gone, swimming away. Another little one. Like I say, we're getting all age groups here tonight. With the common denominator, they're all pounding it.
And now the BrushPile Gear Check, sponsored by Hook and Bullet Sunglasses.
All right, folks, welcome to the BrushPile Gear Check. This evening's fishing, what we've used is a simple rig. Again, I'm using a 10.5-foot Russ Bailey Signature Series. I like the 10 for flipping. It's easier to control, and you can pinpoint where you're getting into these spots in the pads, and that was critical tonight. As far as the line, 4-pound, I still like the high vis, even though the water was somewhat clear. I like the high vis slime line. Now, on the jigs, turn that baby around. I needed something really small that was going to fall in that shallow water small, so I went with the double cross jig head by Crappie Magnet, and then we just used the regular split tail Crappie magnets. They were hot on the blackened chartreuse in the beginning. As we got closer and it got darker, they shut down. I made the move to the purple and chartreuse, and it's like somebody hit a light switch again. So sometimes don't be afraid to get away from your favorite color. Make that change if that bite slows down. Again, simple rig. We had the cork. Wanted to show you that. This is one of those little ice floats that I like using. It's pegged with a toothpick. Once you find the depth the fish are, you slide it up or slide it down, and just like that, your depth is set and you're ready to go. Simple rig, but it was awesome here tonight at Indian Lake. But just barely. There we go. Oh, there's another good fish. Oh, come here, come here. Oh, yes. Look at there. Oh my goodness. Oh, trying to be quiet. There's other people around here now. That's a big white. And see, they're not even starting to change colors yet. Look at that. Doggone. There we go. Oh, there's another good one. He come flying out of the water. Now listen, folks, I want to tell you something I did here. So black and chartreuse was what they were hitting on. We made 2 more rounds and the bite slowed down. I switched to a purple and chartreuse. I've made 3 casts and caught 2 good fish. It's getting a little bit darker, and I like to say just a little color change sometimes can make a difference. Normally if it's crappie, he's staying right where he makes all that commotion. Those carp are just swimming through. There's another good, oh, that's a good fish. Oh my gosh, come here. Oh, color change, and I know, Joe, I know. So I'm getting the look from the camera guy. It's getting dark. We got to close it. Folks, we had about 2 hours to get this show. The actual show part of this, we got in about an hour once we found this set of pads. It has been outstanding. I just wanted to show you what Indian Lake can do for you, because a lot of the tournaments in Ohio, the bigger tournaments, Crappie USA, they don't come here. But man, I'm telling you, Indian Lake is outstanding. This is a weeknight, like say 2 hours of fishing. We have had a ball. Indian Lake, shallow water, you don't need to be high tech. So I've had a ball. I'm gonna keep fishing until Joe says I have to leave, but I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Getting back to the basics, the jig and the bobber. It's been a blast here at Indian Lake. You stay tuned, we'll be back again with BrushPile Fishing.
Special thanks to B&M Pole Company, War Eagle Boats, Crappie Magnet, Slime Line Fishing Line, Cornfield Fishing Gear, Eye-Hole Jig, Easy Drift, Driftmaster, Offshore Tackle Company, Power Pole, Mossback Fish Habitat, Hook and Bullet Sunglasses, Garmin,